crazy how like every actor has like this doppelganger of sorts? Like Ethan Hawke is basically just like positive universe Sean Penn. I mean, even Terrence Malick uses both of them in his movies like interchangeably.
All right, Nick, I hate to interrupt, but welcome to Hate to Interrupt. I am Ethan from youtube.com/Gulif, and I am joined by...
I'm VHS guy, Nick.
And we have a couple of guests here. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
We're welcome by Gare Scare, who actually hit me up on YouTube, which is fucking awesome. Want to introduce yourself, guys?
Yeah, I'm Gare Scare. I'm that's not my real name, but it's my stage alias, so we'll just go with that. I'm the director of a couple of the things that we'll be talking about, I'm assuming, today. And I reside over here in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm an event coordinator for feature films and interactive presentation events at local theaters, including Troma films as well, and a production marketing for them as well. And currently working on some stuff, and I'm looking forward to sharing whatever I can today, talking some cool shit.
Beautiful.
Hey guys, I'll introduce myself. I go by Alex Akira, and I play Ramirez Hishkenstein in both Bad People Doing Bad Things and Hishkenstein After Dark. So happy to be here. Longtime collaborator with Gare Scare. Excited to talk with you guys about all the chaos we've been bringing to the screen.
Nice. And both of y'all are located in Portland?
Yep.
Okay. Nice. Well, do you want to... So I guess both of these films are kind of about the same character. Do you want to kind of give a rundown about what these films are about?
I mean, yeah, so it's a weird thing because the character was something that we came up with all the way back in high school with a short film that we made in a performance seminar class where Alex just kind of created this bizarre accent around a doctor. And then we just kind of took that idea during the pandemic, and we're like, we love these crazy, bizarre movies where we can like laugh with them, but also laugh at them at the screen. And just characters with, bizarre, provocateur intricacies and whatnot. And I'm a big fan of 70s exploitation films, grindhouse films, movies, very much like Texas Chainsaw, Last House on the Left, what was the one that we referenced a couple times in the movie, Alice, Sweet Alice, Satan's School for Girls, stuff like that. So the idea was to create a character that was kind of like the embodiment of the exploitation subgenre in the 70s. And then, the story kind of molded itself around it, and kind of was like the first movie was this bogus journey, which kind of like brought us into this world of Ramirez. And, he's this provocateur filmmaker who made a movie many moons ago, and he was basically kind of lambasted for it. And he broke his studio out of multiple millions of dollars. So it's him trying to make a comeback and to get money to make something else. And he makes this bizarre movie, attempts to make this bizarre movie. And, just desserts, irony is pretty much served back his way by the end of the film, and some things happen to him and his buddy along the way. And everybody in the movie is just kind of a freaking weirdo. And I guess one other thing I could say about it, like, it was very not derivative, it was very inspired by like Beavis and Butthead Do America meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was kind of like in my head, like, oh, if we could like take two things and put them together, what would we do? Pretty much that. And Hishkenstein,
just like a weird, violent road trip movie.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, a weird, violent road trip, but like we never took ourselves too seriously. I mean, Alex, do you want to kind of like stem off of some of the creative choices you made with the character and what we did making it?
Yeah, I mean, it really felt like an organic process because we were really doing, I'd say, like as hardcore guerrilla filmmaking as you could. Like we wanted him to have like his own like persona in disguise, so that's where like the beard comes from, and like he has to like glue the beard on himself. And just out of like me having to physically do that, like that almost helped create the accent, because like at the very beginning of our process, we were using like literally like Elmer's glue to get this beard on, and it was falling off. Like it. And like I had to like talk in a certain way so my mouth wouldn't move too much, so the beard wouldn't fall off. So that like helped. That helped like create the character, and so like we were really. I mean, the first day we ever shot was actually pretty funny. It was on 420 in 2020, and
Nice.
unfortunately, Garrett and I weren't smoking weed, but we were just like in a field with me, dressed up as Ramirez, and I was just, really trying to like find the character. So that's like,
Yeah.
but a lot of the character is like, yeah, trying to be the most ridiculous version of this like 70s satanic loser who lives in like maybe like a Florida bayou. He's got a lot of lore behind him.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is the accent supposed to be? Like, it fucked me up, dude.
Alex, can you? I'll say. I mean,
yeah. So I'll give you a little bit of it. Oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say that like people always try and guess because like that was.
It's almost like a Spanish accent, but like.
Yeah, well, we were making it. It was very much like, it could be really funny if we try and make his ethnicity like super ambiguous because like no one really knows, and like the accent almost changes. He also says his last name wrong multiple times, so it's like he doesn't even really know. It's like he knows that he's pretending to be someone else. So like the accent
almost like a Tommy Wiseau pretending to be American thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean. Well,
I'm from New Orleans.
We've actually we got to meet Tommy Wiseau, so that was cool at a screening of The Room.
Oh, really?
Like,
yeah.
I have a signed copy of The Room behind me.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. My friend has a signed poster of Big Shark in his house. It's framed, so it's.
That's awesome. I actually haven't seen it yet. I wanted to see one of the screenings for it.
I heard it's it's definitely made by Tommy. So, but Alex's
I did want to say about the character though. Yeah, what I wanted to say a little bit about the character, and like Garrett, you should tell the story about Spain. But because you mentioned Nick, like, oh, is it a Spanish accent? Like, definitely, like during 2020, like we wanted to create a character that like people would be a little uncomfortable with. Like, am I supposed to be offended by this, or like, is this supposed to be funny? Like, we wanted it to be very.
Can I laugh at this?
Yeah, is this okay to laugh at? And one of his catchphrases is he goes like, "It's a good one," and a little bit more about the accent is like I try and pretend like I've just like smoked a pack of cigarettes. Like, what would that sound like? But yeah, Garrett has a good story of like where does that phrase come from? Like, good one. Do you want to tell that, Garrett?
Yeah. So I mean, the good Juan thing. I was an au pair for a while in Spain, and I lived with a host family, and they didn't really fully know a lot of English, and they would have different takes on certain words, and like I would just kind of roll with it, because I'm there. I'm staying with the host family. They're cool. But there were certain things that they would say where I knew they were trying to say one thing, and I just couldn't help to not like laugh a little bit because like there would be times where they would say something that's a good thing to do, and they'd say, oh, that's a good one, oh, is it a good one? So like, oh, interesting. Or if they would say, you're gonna shower, they wouldn't say you're gonna shower, they're gonna say, oh, you need to get fresh, so I thought like these are some things that like Ramirez can say. I also spent a lot of time in Florida. I worked for Walt Disney World, and I worked with this dude named Julian from the Philippines, and he would say some things like that were kind of like a very aged person who had seen the world and had some very bizarre stories, and they'd say things where they're like, man, like if you weren't an old guy, like you probably would not get away with saying it like that. And I was imagining like, okay, like that could kind of go
just like the IRL.
The what?
It's something I've noticed recently because I've been writing a little bit more, and I kind of notice how people act a little bit more. Like whenever people have like IRL catchphrases, right?
Sure.
Like there's this like kid that I work with, and he's just like, actually, and like he says it constantly, and I'm like, this guy has an actual catchphrase, and it's fucking me up.
Right.
So I mean, I get it. Those things stick with you.
It's his trademark, It's like Fantastic Mr. Fox.
No, that's
a
awesome.
little whistle snap thing that he does in the movie. It's Good Juan is Ramirez's thing. But yeah, I mean, Bad People was like
Yeah, the more you write,
audiences really like a good one, and then of course like I'd say the most iconic phrase from the first film is flank steak saying I love it, Ramirez. So like we've had like a lot of people just like that's just all they that's their only reaction to the film is I love it,
I love
Ramirez,
it,
and like that
Ramirez.
is
Yeah,
that was one of my questions
like
too. Where did the love of flank steak come from?
How can we make the end come around and like tie in and like really stick the landing? So it's like we have this guy that we've known Wyatt for years, and there's actually Wyatt's on the autism spectrum, and he has 2 documentaries about him on HBO that you can watch on HBO Max. But we've known Wyatt for years, and he's actually he's like a fantastic actor. He's great, and like we gave him the idea of the character of Flank Steak, and he thought he just rolled with it and liked it and thought it was funny. But I kind of wanted to like it's very attributing to 70s exploitation. So he's like this cannibal, this guy that eats like dead things and eats roadkill, and there's all kinds of little Easter eggs. I mean, you can see a couple of them on my Instagram page because like making this movie, like in my head, I was going around and mapping out like how can we reference this movie and like how can we add in like this lore, like how can we tie it all the way back and say like, oh, this is connected to this and this is connected to this, and like there's subtle references to really bizarre exploitation stuff. But I love it. Ramirez was kind of the one thing that Flank Steak said because he's Ramirez's dick rider essentially. He's the guy. He's the ride or die who's going to be there till the very end, until literally at the very end when he gets his stuff ripped off and Flank Steak eats it and says, "I love it, Ramirez." It's everything he would want to hear. I mean, if someone was going to eat my dough, say, "Oh, that's undercooked. That sucks." Wouldn't you rather have someone say, "I love it"?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I thought it was funny how both endings of both films actually kind of mirror each other in a way. It's just Hishkenstein getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me a lot of actually. I don't know if you guys have seen Death Proof, but it's a lot of like like the ending of Death Proof.
Way back in the day, I've
just
seen Death
really
Proof.
Someone getting brutalized. Yeah.
Well, Ramirez.
So I mean,
we wanted to make
both of these films have. Okay.
I was just gonna say we wanted to make a character characters could laugh with, but mainly like never sympathize for, and you're kind of supposed to laugh at him because the movie's called Bad People Doing Bad Things. He's the villain, like he's the bad guy. He's not supposed to be a good guy or a good person or somebody like we want to like root for or be motivated by. Like he's still 150% the villain of the movie, like no doubt. But like it's funny to watch him do things and watch him go about his methods of doing things. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have a natural instinct to root for the main character. So I mean, we don't want his dick to be destroyed. We really don't want that. But I mean, so both of these movies have like pretty weird like visuals, right? How much of the movie was like storyboarded, especially like your cutscenes and like your like little interjections and stuff? How much of that was storyboarded versus just like playing around and editing?
It's interesting. So when like a lot of the moments with Alex himself, like when it's just Alex by himself, I would give him topics. Mainly in the first film, it was like this, where I would give him a topic and he could kind of riff on this topic and kind of take it into his own direction. The second movie was much more concrete with like scripted dialogue. But a lot of the stuff with Ramirez in the first movie was like, hey, I want you to say this and I want you to say it in this way, and we're going to do this, and I want you to get the gist of this line, to take this line and kind of make it your own, the way that Ramirez would make this line his own, and he got to improv around that. But the storyboarding around the scenes was, what location can we afford?
Well, not so much about the not so much about the dialogue. I more so mean like the visual effects and things like that, like a lot of like the actual visuals of the film. Like how much of that was intentional versus
all of that was intentional. I mean, most of that was just me drawing these things on pieces of paper and then giving it to people and like, how can we make this come to life in this weird way, because a lot of it was like an amalgamation of other movies that I had seen. Like a good example, is that moment where they are in the desert and the dog Dalmatian guy pukes up Pepto-Bismol and Ramirez eats it, and he goes into this bizarre hallucinogenic trip. A lot of those visuals were, different homages to different movies, like the claymation. That took a long time to do. We worked with the claymation artist, and I gave him those drawings that I did. I told them what I wanted them to do, what I wanted the demon girls to look like, what I wanted Ramirez and Flanksteak to be doing. There's specific shots, you know, where like Ramirez and Flanksteak are jumping around on a hill. That was a homage to one of my favorite shots from a movie called Harold and Maude that came out in the 70s. So there's lots of little things in there. It just took a long time, and it was like, you know, done over a period of time to where we could give it that extra attention to detail.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it looked really good. You had like a very good visual style to the film. So I was just curious kind of how you approached it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, how do you, so you've mentioned a lot of your inspirations, but like how, I guess for both of you, like how do you find your inspirations? Like whenever you're out there trying to find things to like pull inspiration from, what's your kind of approach to that?
Alex, I'm going to let you take this one first.
Yeah, I definitely, when it comes to like trying to, like definitely like trying to be Ramirez is, I think it's more, the inspiration more comes from like this feeling of like, oh, when you put on this like mask of a different person, there's like no rules, especially with like a character like Ramirez. So it's almost like this, the inspiration more comes from like the freedom of like, oh, you can do like whatever you want behind this mask of Ramirez compared to like just who I am, you know, in society. So
Yeah,
definitely like when it comes to like watching movies, I mean, I love, you know, any movie where like, you know, like a criminal type character is, you know, like having too much fun, you know, even just like, you know, a really easy comparison would be like, you know, any of the Jokers, you know, like someone who's like having way too much fun in their makeup. But yeah, I'd say most of the inspiration comes behind like the idea of like there's no rules when you get to be this character. And also like we kind of had the idea of just like, oh, well, like, you know, anyone can be this character, you know, anyone can put on a mask and kind of just like, you know, go crazy and cause havoc. So, I
100%.
feel like that's part of the lore of like trying to get other people, you know, like, oh, you can also be Ramirez. Like, well, let's see if we can create some copycats.
I like that.
No doubt. Yeah. That was kind of the reasoning behind the ending of the second one, when you have everybody wearing their Ramirez beards outside the theater, and he's kind of like a victim to his own cult status, where, you know, he's basically a Tommy Wiseau at that point, and everybody's making fun of him, and, you know, and he gets his balls destroyed again, unfortunately. But that idea of like anybody, there's a line that one of the characters says that anybody can make a what does he say, like anybody can make a movie, or anybody can dress like this man, it's for the fun of the art. And that was like very Troma, but that's just kind of like embracing the idea that, like, you know, anybody with a creative idea can make something if they have the drive to do it, you know, and to make it happen. And I guess Ramirez being the bad guy in that scene, he's kind of like a representation of, you know, people who saying like, oh, like only these types of people can make these types of movies. Only these types of people can make a movie, you know? And that's just kind of like us being like, yeah, well, no, fuck you. You know, we're going to literally hit you in the balls over that ideology. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's like what Alex said, like anybody can do it. Like I hope one day when we're old, we see people wearing the thing, or somebody saying it's a good one. It'd be really funny. And that's, you know, if people have fun with it, I'm glad. If people love it, I'm glad. If people hate it, you know, I'm glad that they hate it, because it gives some kind of visceral emotion, you know. The worst thing you can do is make something and have it just kind of be like, oh yeah, yeah, there's that. But yeah.
Yeah. We've noticed that on the podcast. So like movies that elicit no like response from us at all are the hardest things for us to talk about, you know?
Word.
Like I'd rather have something I absolutely despise than something that I feel nothing about.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. It just depends. But
sure.
I guess okay, so the first movie definitely had like a very like grindhouse feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one, I would say, kind of gave me like a Joe Bob's Drive-In or like Last Drive-In vibe.
Yeah.
I was wondering how y'all kind of went for that. Like, what made y'all choose that aesthetic for the second film?
Well, actually, it's funny because our editor, Rocco Zeffenberg, one of our two editors, but he did a lot of the late night stuff. He actually worked on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob and did a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So he used his firsthand experience, I guess. But Hishkenstein After Dark is different because it was very like inspired. It became something what originally it was not originally meant to be. Like we could write a whole book on the process of making Hishkenstein After Dark, because what had happened was, Alex, I'm going to let you chime in on this in a second after just kind of riff on some of the original things that it was supposed to be. The original idea was actually very close to Late Night with the Devil, that movie that came out, but it was going to be Ramirez in that titular role as like the host of a Japanese game show type thing. And we have storyboards for what that movie was going to be, fully illustrated, concept footage. And we started working on that all the way back in 2021, right after we screened the first one. I started getting storyboards made, puppets made, blah, blah, blah. And then that didn't really work out. And then the title changed and became something called Spooky 74. And then that didn't work out because we didn't get the budget that we wanted. So then Hishkenstein After Dark kind of had a bit of a different plot line where Ramirez was going to be featured in all the anthology segments. And it was going to be much more extensive. It was going to be much more Rocky Horror. But, Alex, something happened to Alex, and I'll let Alex talk about that before we kind of go forward. That kind of changed some things, but it also like really honed down his performance in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I just got into a really, crazy freak accident in like 2023 that like now I'm like fully recovered from. But that definitely changed the turn of everything, because I went from, well, in the first movie I'm like extremely, it's a lot of like very physical comedy. Like it's a lot of literally us trying to like physically, go on this road trip. But then I just had the craziest luck, and I ended up getting like my ankle ran over by a Tesla, like just walking on the sidewalk.
Shit.
And that was like the start of just like the chaos for that film shoot. Because like after that happened, just like, I don't know, I think maybe one or two bad things started happening to everyone that was working on the film shoot. And it became like a really like, everyone that worked on that film was very like, by the end of it, we're like, oh my God, we're so happy we're able to premiere this and it's done. But like everyone went through hell to make that film. And so in a lot of the film, my character is like sitting or like hobbling. And that's because like I literally couldn't walk or I had to hobble. So we've got some like great behind the scenes photos of like Garrett like carrying me around the desert, to put me in certain spots because like I couldn't walk up a hill. But I mean that movie definitely, it helped me get through the recovery, because like I had something to focus on and like be excited for, and it wasn't like I'm not gonna let a freak accident like just be like, well, we quit, so it was a really good, only focusing on the positive things, of course. Like it was a really good, like there was a lot of good life lessons in there of like, if you really want to do something, like you can't give up,
Exactly.
And I think everyone else who worked on the film too saw that and like, well, if Alex is gonna keep going, we got to keep going too, because like, I think everyone that worked on the film, everyone went through a breakup, and Garrett got like poisoned by someone, and like there was just all this crazy shit happening.
It's literally
just kind of within movie. This chaos though, like it did like have to it had to evolve, what we wanted to film, because like I couldn't perform it the same way. And Garrett, if you want to talk about kind of how it evolved into like definitely the artistic side
for
of it.
Sure. I mean, from what it became, like I said, it became, it was originally going to be a late night show. Then it became a bit of a identity based horror movie, and then it became another version where Ramirez was going to be more heavily involved in the anthology segments. But then it kind of became like this midnight pulpy something weird video, kind of like Ed Wood film. Like it became a homage to Plan 9 from Outer Space, because I started writing the characters around some of the characters from that movie, because that is one of my favorite B movies of all time. It's hilarious. There's even segments that we cut from Plan 9 into this movie in the intro of it.
I saw that.
It's one thing's sure, she's dead, murdered, and somebody's responsible. But Ramirez, he was very much like in that movie. He's the Bela Lugosi character in Plan 9, and Femstake, she's the Vampira character from the original Plan 9. And you have the two gravediggers from Plan 9. Those are the two Jehovah's Witnesses in the movie. So it's kind of like a spiritual remake in a way, connected to that movie, paying homage to it, but also kind of being its own thing, connected to Bad People. And then, we had these movies that were supposed to be movies that Ramirez had made. So these are Ramirez's films that he's doing commentary over. And, that was actually Alex's idea, to do the commentary over the short films.
So if you remember where you were, you can continue. If not, we can figure it out.
We were just talking about like Ed Wood and how the movie was like connected to Plan 9 from Outer Space, and it's kind of like a spiritual successor or sequel to that, and connected to Bad People as well. But really is interesting because the people who had seen Bad People were like, "Oh wow, I was not expecting this to be so different." And quite frankly, neither were we. We had an original version, like I said, that was going to be a little similar, but it was always meant to be a little different. However, it just became kind of its own entity. And there's reasons why I like it, and reasons why it's kind of like I wish it could have been what it was too. But I'm also proud with what it came out to be. It's a love letter to an atomic age, movies like from the 1950s. So, yeah, I mean, eventually,
I think it definitely wore its references on its sleeve, but it definitely felt like its own thing to me. Like,
for sure.
You definitely, both of your films have very much your own aesthetic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's very true.
You mentioned your funding, that you couldn't get the funding you wanted. How have you? I mean, both Ethan and I are interested in moving into film eventually. Sure. That's like kind of my end goal. I'm doing my comic stuff right now, but I do want to make films.
Yeah.
So how have you what was your path to kind of getting funding for these films?
Our own pockets, man. Our own pockets, and I do tree work. So I cut trees on the side. So I'm an arborist. So a lot of the funding to make the first, not really Bad People, but to make Hishkenstein came from, large tree jobs, which is why it's Wicker Sticks Cinema, Wicker Sticks Entertainment. There's some tree cutting in there too. But Bad People is interesting because like it was very much everybody who was involved helped in some way contribute. A lot of it because it took a long time to get edited, but that mainly did come from pretty much just me and Alex most of the time. We had some people pitching in on Hishkenstein too a little bit, but yeah, it was pretty much out of our own pockets, but there are ways of getting people. It's just, you gotta say the right things. You gotta, play your right cards. We're still figuring it out ourselves. It's something that it really just takes a gamble. If you don't start just doing it, and then people are going to want to hop on board, because that's kind of how it works, is you just got to start. You got to start making it and prove you have something. And that's how people kind of roll on board and, want to do it with you. And then they're more likely to put stuff into your movie. And, it kind of worked for those first two movies because those are like intended to be like super low budget, campy type films, which were paying homage to those types of movies. But, that's also what we were able to do with what we had, But I always say it's, if you're like a first time filmmaker trying to get something out, play to your strengths, play with what you have, play to your strengths, and then work your way up, like even with Bad People, when we first made it, it's like a 38-minute thing. We're like, this does not need to be a full movie right now, right? It's cut at 38 minutes. It is what it is. Hishkenstein stepped it up and became a full movie, just barely a full movie, but it's kind of like earning your audience's attention. Kind of like why I always think you should start with a short film. You start with that short film and it's kind of you're winning your audience over. And then you kind of increase it the next time, and then you increase it the next time. I do think a lot of these like big auteur filmmakers that come out, they want to come out and they want, their grand masterpiece to be like this 3-hour thing, and they expect people to like sit down and pay attention to it. And I'm just like, I don't know who the fuck you are. Like, why should I watch this 3-hour thing made by you? I don't know who you are. Like, why should I care? So I want to I think as a filmmaker, playing with your budget, playing with what you have within your own means, because low budget kind of like fosters a higher sense of creativity. You're going to have to improvise with different things that you wouldn't before, and make things you maybe thought you would never make. But you're kind of like becoming a child again in your head and like make believe and working with what you have. Some kids are going to have the bigger and better toys. You got to think like, what do I have? What am I going to pretend as a starfighter? I've got a stick and a stone. You got to kind of make it work.
No, that makes total sense. How is working within like the low budget filmmaking for you, Alex?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of speak on literally like everyone in this situation just kind of had to be like your best friend. Like Garrett will say how he's a little bit antisocial, but like honestly, like people just wanted to help with the film because like they were like, oh, you guys are fun to hang out with. So as long as like you guys like if people are a fun hang, and because we're trying to do something fucking crazy, a lot of people were like, well, I want to see this. I'll hold something or I know somebody, and like on the first film, I think other than like the editor, like only the two Slovakian sisters actually like got paid, because it was like everyone else was just willing to be there and like be friends with us and hang out with us. Hishkenstein After Dark had a lot more like professionalism,
there was a lot more
behind the scenes.
Hishkenstein After Dark cost me $40,000 to pay everybody the bare minimum of what they were getting paid for what they were requesting, as well as the editors and the special effects and getting the actual props. So, no, I think just being able to like tell where it's going, but like you said, you got to make sure that you're easy to work with, that people want to be around you, that people are wanting to connect to your vision. Because if people don't see your vision, then it's like, why am I wasting my time working on this thing that might never manifest?
I think because most of the shoots we would be hanging out, it was pretty much like we hang out all day Saturday or all day Sunday for a weekend to do like one shoot. So you're hanging out with people all day, eating food, just kicking the shit, and like that was just like, no one's gonna help you for free if like they're not having a good time. So I mean, I think there was just a lot of like camaraderie and like people were honestly, it helped that it was during COVID because people wanted to get out. I know like at our premiere, someone was like, I just wanted to hang out with people, so like we gave that opportunity, and
no theaters
honestly,
were open.
super crazy.
Yeah.
I do have to say for the first film, we like paid this like Portland storage unit company $100, and they let us film inside of their like storage unit for like, I don't know, like 20 hours. So there's like multiple scenes in the first movie that like,
all right,
when I'm building. Like,
is that where he's going to, where he's talking to the producer?
Yeah, when he's going to talk to the producer and the prison.
Okay.
The prison.
So that's all like within these like storage units that like were just empty. And that was like during the peak of COVID, and people were like, oh, this is sick. Like, we're getting to hang out,
Yep. And then we released an uncut.
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Too.
It's been a lot of fun.
The version that you guys I sent you was actually the original cut down version. There's an extended version with more depravity and gross shit in it. That's the one that's actually available on streaming that people can watch on streaming. But the original one with the British narrator is actually the much harder one to find. Which I actually prefer the original. I think it's much more tight. The new one, it's like it's like kind of it's different. Like the whole opening sequence is black and white. We have a different narrator, and then, like I said, there are a couple different sequences that are different. But I mean, they're both. People seem to like both versions of the movie, which I'm glad. We did like a small Blu-ray release of the uncut version. There's going to be a Blu-ray release of Hishkenstein as well. And I'm not sure which version I sent you. Did I send you the Technicolor version, or did I send you the Atomic Black and White color graded version? Because we have two versions of it.
I think you sent me the Technicolor version.
Okay, because the DVD is going to have the black and white version and the color version, and it's going to have the short film that we shot to promote the movie, as well as all the trailer and the promotional stuff. And
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Is that going to be just like, so I know Lloyd Kaufman was in your film in the second film. Mm-hmm. I mean, how did that happen? How did you get him on board to show up in your movie?
I know Lloyd. I know Lloyd through making the first movie, because I knew Rocco, and Rocco was who connected me to Lloyd. And Rocco
Okay.
Zesterberg. And if you want to check out another really awesome like indie horror film, check out I Need You Dead. Because Rocco, he's doing like some horror stuff overseas in Japan, like directing some stuff over there. He's back in New York, but Rocco hooked me up with meeting Lloyd when I visited Brooklyn. And I got to go to Manhattan and go to the Troma studio, and that's where they kind of like brought me in, where I felt like I was a part of the Troma family, and I got to meet like not Robert Kurtzman, excuse me, Lloyd Kaufman, and I got to meet Michael Hertz. And Michael Hertz was the one who looked at me and said I reminded him of a young Lloyd, which was like really positive comment. I got to see all of the props from like Surf Nazis Must Die, from the Toxic Avenger, Citizen Toxie, Return to Nukem High, and that's where they're like, do you want to like show Troma movies in Portland? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to do that. And that's how I met Lloyd.
That's so cool.
I helped Lloyd. They did a 50th anniversary panel here in Portland, and it was at the Retro Gaming panel. And Troma had been around for a long ass time, so we did this panel where I got to sit up on stage with Lloyd and ask him questions and sit with him. And he had people ask me questions too about the movie, and I'm just like, wow, like this guy who has like no reason to do this is like the most kind-hearted person to like bring me up and like help me advertise this just because I'm helping him out with this event, And from there on, like Lloyd, because he said we did a really good job, he showed up in our movie. He got to play the moon guy. Yeah, and I just talked to him the other day. So I mean, Lloyd's, he's doing all kinds of stuff, and we got a Toxic Avenger remake coming out in August in theaters.
Oh yeah,
Dude,
I'm excited to see that.
I'm so excited.
Yep,
that's been finished for years.
Yeah,
they were in production, not production hell. They were in
just like nobody was picking it up. Yeah,
in theaters
it was
hell,
like unreleasable or something like that. So that's sad.
But all the reviews, the pre-release reviews, were good.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I'm so excited
to like it. It's got Elijah Wood.
Because directed by
Peter Dinklage.
It's directed by it's directed by the guy who was in Blue Ruin. I forget his name.
The
main actor in Blue Ruin.
Director of Green Room.
Well, no, that's Jeremy Saulnier. But the guy who works with him in all his movies. It's one of the actors who works with him regularly that directed it.
I thought it was made by the same guy who made like Murder Party and Green Room. I didn't know that it wasn't directed by him.
No, it's his. Okay. They're close friends though.
Yeah,
Macon Blair. But yeah, I mean, Troma's, hopefully they'll make a comeback. I mean, I feel like their stuff hasn't gotten as much eyes on it lately, but
they're getting popular.
I mean, this could be something for them.
They definitely have a really large cult following. I mean, it's crazy because we are doing the screening in August for Cannibal the Musical, because I'm a big South Park fan. Big Cannibal the Musical fan, big Matt and Trey fan, and like it was like a dream to show that movie, which I'm like surprised that they're letting us do. But it's going to be like a whole interactive thing where people can sing along, and Toxie's going to be there, and there's going to be bluegrass music, and yeah, there's a huge turnout of people that are already wanting to like get tickets for it. It got like the most likes of any post I ever put out. It got like around like 500 likes just from a couple days ago. Nice. So I'm like, all right, like people really want to go see this.
No, I mean,
yeah,
the only musical I've ever gone to see is Book of Mormon. So I mean,
oh yeah,
they make good work.
Yeah, they do.
So you said your films are actually available on streaming. I think you said to me it's like on Apple and through Troma's streaming service. How did you kind of work your like actual streaming deal?
Well, Troma was just because I knew Troma. That's just because I knew them, and they said, you can put your first movie on our thing, which I'm like, great. Hishkenstein was different, and we're still in the process of waiting to hear back the exact date, because right now it's picked up by two streaming services, Play Now Media and what was it? Play Now Media, and there's this brand other one, but they're associated with like Apple TV, Roku, Amazon. So it'll be streaming on those platforms. It'll be much, much more of a wider release, and it is the Technicolor version, so people will be able to watch it. It will be this year. That's what I can confirm. It will be this year. But we did all of that through Film Hub. They were the ones who helped distribute it for us. So it's definitely taken its time for sure. A little longer than what we've wanted, but soon, fingers crossed, it'll be on there.
It sounds like both of you kind of had a hand in the writing process, possibly. Did y'all both kind of have a like kind of input in the writing of this film?
Alex, you can talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, for Garrett and I, we started doing like some writing projects. That's probably how we first started working together, probably back in 2017. And I think just throughout the years, we've always been doing, some form of, horror comedy writing. So when it came to like doing Bad People and Hishkenstein After Dark, um, I'd say there was a lot of there's always a lot of rewriting um, when it comes to trying to find location, actors. I mean, there's definitely especially for like Bad People, like there was like scenes where it's like, oh, like let's write this and do this, and then it just doesn't work out, and then we just came up with something else. One of the like really organic scenes that wasn't going to be in it at first was the dog scene with like the birthday table, the birthday party.
Mm-hmm. That was one of my favorite scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the best ones. And that I just remember we were in the car coming from a shoot when we thought of that, and then yeah, I mean it's a lot. I'd say a lot of the writing is definitely Garrett will just start writing immediately, and then I'll always come in to help support, do what I can. But yeah, when it comes to the writing, I'd say it's a lot of rewriting.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
So this for me as a writer, like I've probably written like 40 or 50 screenplays. I haven't produced any, but I've written a lot of films. But like usually it's for me whenever I'm writing something, it's something triggers something in me, right? Like for me most of the time it's like a song. Like there's some song that I just get obsessed over
Mm-hmm.
and I listen to it like 8,000 times and it creates one scene in my head and then a story kind of sprouts from that. But I'm wondering for y'all, like when y'all are writing, like what kind of makes you decide this is something I need to make?
I would say, I mean, it has to be something that is visually appealing in my mind. Like even like when with Alex talking about the dog scene, like the idea of like a Dalmatian. I actually did like this really weird small short film way back with like a Dalmatian guy dressed as a Dalmatian was like the primary antagonist, and I don't know why. I guess there's just something kind of like unsettling about the color pattern, but I thought like a guy in a field wearing a hat, a pink hat, is like there's just something very off-putting about it. Seems very like nightmare-ish, but like coming up with something like that, like influence-wise, it has to be like very visually popping. Like there has to be like when you're writing something, like even with Bad People, there were like standout moments where we're like, okay, like writing this, like this has to be a certain way. Like the lesbian witches sequence is kind of like, in my opinion, the standout part of Act One. And then Act Two, it's the dog man sequence, and then Act Three, it's him getting his member ripped off by the sisters. So it's kind of like writing like those key moments and like what are going to be the moments that people are going to remember. It's got to be something authentic. It can't be something that feels like forced. Like there can no. One of the things I hate more than anything is quips. I hate characters with quips where they're like cracking. That's one of the things I can't stand about Marvel movies is like the like I didn't see that coming or that's gonna hurt in the morning type shit that all the characters say. And I just think it's really stupid and dumb. And a lot of times it just doesn't feel authentic. It seems like that was there to get a laugh in the audience to keep people with ADHD entertained. It wasn't
And
like, oh,
especially
like
when every single character does the same exact quips over and over again.
yes, everybody's a smartass. Yeah, everybody's a smartass. Everybody's quirky.
It just doesn't make anything feel genuine.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Everything that a character does has to feel like something a character would do. Like for instance, like when
Yep.
writing Ramirez, when writing things are happening to him, there were moments where it's very easy to be like, oh, like we can like make him seem like he's sympathetic here. He's got a motivation. It's like, no, the movie is fucking called Bad People Doing Bad Things. We have to stick to that title. And like there were people that watched it and they're like shocked, and I'm like, guys, like, what is the name of the movie? Like, what were you expecting? The movie's literally called Bad People Doing Bad Things. Like, the main character is going to be bad. His accomplice is going to be fucked up. Everybody in the movie's like everybody's horny, you know. everybody's, getting jerked off, jerking off, fucking somebody, doing something dirty every couple scenes, so everything had to, within that world, because it was an exaggerated version of like the 1970s, we called it 1970 sexy, had to be written to where like everybody was essentially a stereotype of like a 70s character, hot, sweaty, gross, hippie, over sexualized, hyper violent stoners. Like that's just kind of like what we were thinking, But yeah.
So I guess that kind of brings me up to another question: is how do you kind of ride that line, right? Because I mean, especially being in like Portland and stuff, like I know, and I'm in Austin, near Austin, so I mean, I understand how people can take offense, right? How do you kind of ride that line to where you feel comfortable putting these things in your film? Like, do you have a line, like, or is there? How do you kind of differentiate what you're willing to do in these films?
Has there ever been anything you've been about to film or thought about
Wait,
filming?
what?
And
Sorry,
you're just
I didn't catch that last line.
Has there ever been anything you've like considered putting in and you just go like, no, we can't do that, there's no way?
Mostly I just kind of don't care, honestly. I'm just like,
okay.
I don't really give a fuck like what people say about it. It's good. At the end of the day, it has to be authentic, but at the end of the day, it can't just be depraved for the sake of being depraved. It has to be like, oh, would this character do this? Like would this, in my mind, like who is Ramirez? Who is Flank Steak? It could be very easy to be like, oh yeah, Ramirez is a bad guy. He's doing all these other things. Why not have him just pull out a gun and shoot somebody? Why not? Because he's bad, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't really line up with the type of bad that he is. He's more of a sleazeball, cornball, pervy director who's very much tied to the occult and all these secret societies. That's kind of like who he is. He's like a shitty Rasputin, But we kind of he's based on a real life director called Jess Franco or Jesus Franco, and he made a lot of movies in the 70s called like Vampire Lesbos or She Killed in Ecstasy or Lady Frankenstein or The Erotic Rites of Frankenstein. Like he made all of these movies in the 1970s and going into the 80s, and he looks like Ramirez too, but Ramirez is kind of like an exaggeration of him. But every character, if there's a line, to me there isn't really a line. It just has to be like even that last scene.
It has to make sense for the story.
Yeah. And that last scene where he gets his stuff ripped off. I remember telling Alex that, and he's just like, "Wow, what?" And I'm like, "Don't worry, it'll be really funny." And I'm like, writing that down on paper doesn't sound funny, but like when it happens and the way he reacts to it, and the way that's done, the way that's shot, and the angles and the dialogue, it is like low key hilarious. So it's like, how can we make somebody's stuff get ripped off really funny? Oh, we can do it. We can do it. We can make it fucked and we can make it funny. So yeah.
Yeah, it just everything with a purpose. I mean, I'm the same way. But there is that. I feel like nowadays there is that fear that you're going to rub people the wrong way, and I was just wondering if that was something you struggle with.
Not really. Like it's just I mean, Alex can attest to that more since he is actually being the character. I don't know if you feel any pressure, but it's more like we can always cut things out if we feel like it doesn't line up or if it goes too far. But there's never really been. I don't know. I kind of.
It's more about showing it to the right audience, though, too. Like this isn't like daytime television, Ellen entertainment. Like everyone, like if this is being shown at, a late night and, everyone there understands that like this, even if you just say the word horror, that was kind of how we first like got into it, even though, maybe it's even sometimes more comedic, but just saying, because some people are just like turned off by horror. Like if you can just say horror, that's gonna like, there's gonna be a general acceptance, instead of if you say this is a comedy.
Yeah, and the average. Yeah, the average person doesn't understand subgenres and to the same extent we do because we watch a lot of movies, right? So I mean,
yeah,
and I guess that kind of leads me to another topic, which is we kind of talked about this a little bit before we started recording. But do you watch a lot of mainstream content, or do you kind of stick to more obscure films? Like, what do you personally enjoy to watch?
I honestly, 90% of the movies that I watch are older movies, and I'll go to the theaters to see re-releases. Like over at the Hollywood Theater, they just did like a 35 millimeter print of The Wicker Man from 1973, and it was the extended cut. And it's just like, that was like one of the best cinematic experiences I've had. And everybody there was respectful. They knew the movie, or they were bringing someone who had never seen the movie to experience it for the first time. So it's rare when I do want to watch something new, because a lot of the time I feel disappointed, or I feel like I'm not able to connect with the same excitement that a lot of people do. Every now and then I will see something and I'll be like, that was fucking baller. Like, I went and saw The Surfer yesterday. That was great. I had a great time with that, with Nick Cage. Or Alex and I went and saw Sinners the day before, and we had a good time watching that too.
Oh yeah, I love The Sinners.
But like, like for instance, some people will whenever something gets extreme praise that's brand new, I always raise my eyebrow a little bit at it, because we live in this, very social media fueled culture now, where like everything that comes out is like the best thing since sliced bread. You have all of these critic labels that are slapped up on a poster, and it's super deceiving now. Like, I'm one of the few people that hated Alien Romulus. Everybody I know loves that movie. I know I'm in the minority, but like, to me, I watched it and I'm like, this just feels like the Force Awakens of alien movies. Like, I don't feel anything special about it. So like, I want to connect with newer films. I'm very selective about what I watch. A lot of times old stuff. Alex, why don't you go off on that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely gets the award for horror films. I honestly did not, like Nick, I wasn't aware of all the subgenres before like I met Garrett. So even more like I guess I thought myself more mainstream, but I definitely really like to go back and watch like old comedies. Like when I watched like The Birdcage for the first time with Robin Williams, I'm like, oh my god, like,
so good.
How can you make something, funnier than this? And then like the first time I watched like The Jerk with Steve Martin, I was like dying laughing. So I'd say that's definitely rubbed off on me, is like trying to, go back and see like what are more of the original comedies, instead of just trying to, I mean, they don't make too many comedies now today, but so you have to go back in time to see what they're making.
Yeah. No, 100%. I try to, especially being on the podcast, it's forced me kind of out of my comfort zone a little bit, to where I'm watching more new things, because I kind of was sort of in that same mindset where I just like hated everything new. And I've been surprised a few times. I mean, less often than I'd hope, but I don't know. I think there are still a few good movies being made.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's there are a lot of different individual like production companies. Like, whenever something comes out, I'm always gonna like pay attention to, like Spectre Vision. I don't know if you ever watched their stuff. They put out like Mandy, Daniel Isn't Real, Color Out of Space, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Okay. Those are all bangers. That's Elijah Wood's production company, and that's like, they always make quality stuff. Or Neon, they're killing it right now with a lot of stuff they're putting out. Yeah. A24, I like most of their stuff. Some of it doesn't always land for me, but I mean, they made my favorite, top 3 favorite movies of all time. The Lighthouse was made by A24. That's like one of my favorite movies ever made. So yeah, it's
so fucking good.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I saw that 7 times in the theater when it came out. So yeah, it's gotta support it, man.
Got me beat. I only saw it twice. Yeah. But yeah, everything Eggers puts out is pretty great so far.
Yeah. I always tell people whenever I hear someone saying like, movies aren't good anymore, and I end up getting to the bottom of it, and they see like 2, maybe 3 big Hollywood movies a year, and that's kind of all they watch. I'm like, you need to broaden your horizons. You can't say movies are bad now. It's just you're only watching from one source.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, watching all the Mark Wahlberg movies and saying they all suck.
Exactly. There are so many amazing foreign films every single year. There are so many amazing indie films, stuff that you just don't see in, popping up in your local theater chain.
Absolutely. You're totally right. I mean, what was it? When did Godzilla -1 come out? What year was that? That was
2 years ago, I think.
That was like utterly fantastic. So good. That blew me away.
And the budget, it had such
like
a micro,
mil.
like yeah, for what it was, like holy fuck, where are movies in the U.S.'s money going?
Exactly.
Like what the fuck?
I'd love to ask that question too from someone who makes movies who desperately would like some more money making a movie. Where is it going? Yeah.
Oh man,
I don't know,
it's like
man.
a black hole.
I don't know. Yeah, what was that new racing movie with Brad Pitt that's like nearly like
F1.
Yeah, like the budget is absolutely like ridiculous
for a racing movie.
Yeah.
It's like it's
No, and
absurd.
not even that. Like what was Fincher's new movie? About the hitman with
The Killer.
Michael Fassbender. Yeah, that movie had like a $300 million budget. Like what?
Yeah, I thought that movie was so forgettable too. I went and saw it with my dad.
It was so not great.
We both fell asleep
F1's
in the theater, and I never fall asleep in a movie. But it's
dang, F1's got a budget of around 300 mil.
Jeez, man,
holy shit,
that is absurd.
I like Michael Fassbender, but bro, like, yeah.
So I guess another thing that I forgot to ask is the movie has a very like, I mean, it looks like it's shot on camcorders.
Oh yeah.
But was that done digitally after the fact, or how did you actually shoot the film?
So
yeah, what'd you guys shoot on?
Yeah, that was Rocco's. So we shot it on like Alex's Canon digital camera, but what we did was we put it through a VHS machine like 3 times, and then we put filters over it, and then put it through a VHS machine again, and then we cropped all of it to make it and compressed it to make it look like it was shot on like 8mm, because we wanted people to feel like this was a lost movie from the 70s. Another example of like kind of a movie like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, the look to that movie. I don't know if you've seen that one. Highly recommend it if you can digest darker content. It's a great film, but it has a similar look to our movie. Or even like those black and white sequences with the interviews, that was very like Blair Witch inspired.
Oh yeah,
with the characters, and it's like very much leaning into like the folklore of like the killers that they're trying to do a movie about. But like everything was look-wise was 100% intentional with Bad People and Hishkenstein as well. Like that was very much a part of its appeal, of its griminess, to give it that extra ick factor. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I love the aesthetic of the films. I think
they look effective.
I think they look great.
Yeah, I really love the both of your opening title sequences for each movie. I thought those had just a ton of kinetic energy, and I think those are awesome.
They're a lot of they're
like
there
immediately
to get you hyped up like a rock concert.
Yeah, they did it.
Yeah, like the bad people, like that. Bad People went by in a breeze. Like that movie was over in 2 seconds for me. I was like, holy shit! I was surprised how fast it went by.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's what that's what our goal was. We wanted people to see it and to have it to go by and to be like, okay, I like that. I want more of that. I don't know what I liked about it, but I want more of it. So, yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. Was this your first like longer film, Bad People?
Well, we started making a movie in 2019. That was a much more serious film, and that was kind of like the auteur day of like, we're gonna like take ourselves super seriously and do this like really dark thriller type movie, kind of in the vein of something like Catchy or like Hard Candy or Funny Games. It was gonna be much more akin to that, and it just like production wise, shooting it was a complete disaster, like the most epic fails of epic fails. And it was good because it was the best form of school of film school you're going to get. There's no better method of teaching than failure. Failure. It was just it is like I like to roast myself and like everything associated with just making that movie, of just like, oh man, wasn't that cringe? But I'm glad that we did that and like learned from that and like failed really hard, because like there was that moment where Alex and I were just so fucking done at the end of that movie when we were shooting, where we're just like, all right, we're going home. We're done. We can't do this anymore. And it's funny because some of the people that were involved with that actually stuck through with us and went on to Bad People. Emily, who was in that movie, actually came back for Bad People and Hishkenstein. She's great. But yeah, making that movie was originally called Viewmaster, the other one that we were making, and it was just like, oh man. I think if you're a filmmaker, you have to have that experience because it makes you so much more appreciative of what you're going to do going forward. You know, minding your money, managing your money. Where is the money going? Making sure, hey, this guy, if he's going to go and get a haircut, make sure that when he comes back, he doesn't cut off all his fucking hair and look like a completely different character when he comes into the new scene. And then you have to spend half the day on set going and finding a wig to replicate the hair. Like, true story that happened.
That's where a good assistant director comes in handy.
Exactly. So, you know, it's just for what it was. It's a funny thing to look back on, but I'm like, I'm very hard. I take things very personally, at least film wise, and I take things like very harshly, critically on myself. So I look back at that and be like, yeah, you failed, but you know what? Like, what did you learn from that? Take that and go forward. But yeah, you know, that was our first attempt at a feature thing, and then we made Bad People, which was like a total shift in tone, total fun. And that's where I was just kind of like, you know what? Like, I love existing in this like subcategory of filmmaking. It's a blast, and these people are way more cool than these other people in this other type of category of filmmaking. So yeah,
Bad People just had
Everybody's
so
there to
much
have a good time.
momentum. It was just like
one
just
thing
as
after
you
the
saw,
next.
like, wow, like this was so fast to watch. Like, it was so fast to shoot. Because like a lot of the time, you know, it's like we only have a chance to do like 1 or 2 takes. So it was like we have to like do things as fast as possible. And
We had animals.
yeah, we just gotta yeah, we had
snakes. We had snakes. We had goats. We had bugs. We had a spider that was cut out of the original movie. So I don't know if any of that made it into the uncut version. I don't think so. There's some other scenes. Yeah, no animals, but like no animals made it into the uncut. But we did have to work with like actual snakes and stuff, which was like day one when we first started shooting Bad People. Because Alex and I, when we first started shooting, well, no, okay, that wasn't day one. That was, you talked about day one earlier. But when we had that big lesbian witches shoot in the garage with both Jax and Chelsea playing those characters, and we had Will dressed as Anton LaVey, and you know, you there as well, and we're like, okay, this could go horribly wrong. We have a lesbian simulated sex scene, we have actual pythons on set, we have a tarantula, and we have candles with fire everywhere. Like, everything could go horribly wrong right now. And everyone at the end of that shoot had like the best time. And that like gave us like the full confidence to be like, okay, if we can do that, we can literally like fucking shoot anything if we just did that. So yeah, that was
once we did that, it was like we're ready to make this film, because that was like
absolutely. Confidence.
And it was also like it was during COVID too, so we were all like scared to be like, should we be doing this? You know, like should we be really even meeting up? But of course, you know, no one got sick and the footage turned out amazing. I remember going straight from there to plugging it in on a TV and watching the raw footage, and it was just like, holy shit, this is so insane what we just captured on film.
Yep.
Well, what do y'all have coming next? Are y'all going to be doing more collaborations together? Are y'all both have your own plans?
We got Hishkenstein 3 coming up.
There's some things in the work, that's for sure. I mean, Alex is working on a book right now. I'll have him talk about that in a second. But I'm working on a short film that's called Stairs. I've posted about it a bit, but it's it's returning to form with dark fantasy and folk horror. I'm a big gothic horror lover, big gothic horror nerd with classic monsters, so it's very much attributing to that. And it's a bit of a shift in tone. But, you know, as a director, I think you kind of have to like challenge yourself, and it's me challenging myself and doing something a little different, which I'm very excited for. Everybody involved is super talented. Liana, who's our main actress, she's like amazingly talented. And then, you know, we've got a great DP. Ian got great sound people, got great makeup. So it's going fantastic. I can't wait for people to truly check that out. It's going to be a real special short film. And as far as like anything else with Ramirez, there's definitely, you know, plenty of stuff in the works. It just depends on, you know, what's going to find its footing first. There's a couple things. there's also another big project that Alex and I have been working on and working towards. I don't really want to talk about it yet because I don't want to like jinx it, but it's very special, and when the time comes, it's definitely going to be a really big announcement. And that's all I'll say about that. It's very
cool.
socially relevant right now. That's all I'll say. And I'll kind of have Alex go and talk about his project a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd say just because Garrett and I have been, working on both of these films one after another, pretty much for the last 5 years. It's definitely opened up both of our eyes of like, okay, like where do we want to go from here? And for me, like I think in like around 2021, I started doing a lot more just writing for myself. And so yeah, I've been working on a fictional novel called Yes, I Am Busy Doing Nothing. And it's going to be about like a fictional version of myself in high school. But yeah, I'm really excited to share that when it's finalized. And for what Ramirez comes in the future, or some other projects, it really just comes down to like, when are the stars aligning, meeting the right people who also want to get behind it, because I think for the last 5 years we had the stars aligned to get those two films made, and it's just always keeping our eyes open to when the next timing of opportunity strikes. But I know like we were just so happy to get this second film done. It was just like such like a huge relief of like, oh my gosh, like to see it on a big screen. And we've had a couple big screenings here in Portland, at the Hollywood Theater and Cinema 21, which is like just like so huge to like get them at the biggest independent theaters. So we're just really happy that we made it there.
No, I can't even
Awesome,
imagine.
Yeah.
Well, how can people find you guys so they can follow these next works and stuff?
Yeah, drop all your socials and stuff.
Yeah, man. You can get me at Gare_Scare on Instagram if you want to check out my stuff. You can also watch the uncut version of Bad People Doing Bad Things on Troma Now, the streaming service associated with Troma.
Troma
Lloyd,
Now.
Yeah, Lloyd would love
free
to
month.
flex that. But yeah,
Troma Now.
if you don't
You
have
heard it here
Troma Now,
first.
and if you're wanting to get into Troma movies, it's a great thing to do. It's the first month is free, so you can download it for free.
A month is plenty of time.
Yeah.
I've actually signed up for it a few times to watch random movies.
Yeah, see, there you go. They've got like Maniac Cop on there. I think Basket Case is on there too. Mother's Day. So Mother's Day is coming up. You can watch Mother's Day on Troma Now. But Hishkenstein will be on a couple services as well. Like I said, there's going to be a limited Blu-ray release. And we're currently in the process of, I'm trying to get my website started up, my official Wicker Sticks Entertainment site, and that's going to be set up most likely by the end of this year. So there'll be more updates about, Stairs, about the next film, about, more screenings for Hishkenstein, and, what's going on in that Ramirez world going forward. And yeah, I'm going to be doing some major updates from the EU. I'm traveling to the Czech Republic to do some film related work over there. So I'll be making some updates from over there as well. Possibly projects coming from there too. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Follow Garrett at Gare Scare, and you can follow me at also on Instagram, Curb Your Alex. Like Curb Your Enthusiasm, but Curb Your Alex. And so I'll post some updates about my book, and then what other movie things I fall into.
I mean, thanks so much for just like reaching out and sharing your film and everything. It was like, actually, this is like one of the more fun episodes I've had. Just kind of going over some
thank you
wacky, weird shit.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming on and being great guests.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you guys
enjoyed it and
had a good time. Thanks for taking the time to watch it and have us on here. It means a lot.
Of course, guys. Y'all are great guests.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Perfect.
All right. Yeah, if you guys are listening to this on YouTube, please leave us a like and a comment. If you're listening to it on one of our audio-only platforms, such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, please leave us a 5-star review because that really helps us out in the algorithm. Thank you again so much to Alex and Gare Scare for being here on the pod. And, oh, wait. Real quick, what do you guys think about Chris Stuckman?
Chris Stuckman.
Yeah, what are y'all's thoughts on Chris Stuckman?
I actually got to meet Chris Stuckman in 2017 at Comic-Con,
really?
but that was back when he was doing like reviews, and now he doesn't really do reviews anymore. Now he just kind of like goes and talks about movies in a very monotone voice and kind of just agrees with everybody else. So,
he has his own movie about to be released.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
excited
filming. He's got a movie in
for
right now.
Shelby Oaks.
Shelby Oaks.
That's, I think Mike Flanagan's distributing it or something. So
yeah.
I just want to see Chris's voice again, because he used to be a guy that I would like watch and be like, man, I love this guy's enthusiasm. And it doesn't feel like I've heard that in a lot of his last reviews. So I want to see it come out in this movie, because I know he loves horror and I know he's passionate about it. So I hope that it comes out in Shelby Oaks. So
yeah, I hope it's worth it. I hope it's worth him kind of dumbing down his videos.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right?
Yeah,
like he dumbed himself down, and then like I felt like Jeremy Johns got more vocal about his opinions. Like ever since he started growing his beard out and wearing that bathrobe whenever he does a review, he seems like he's more like, I'm gonna be edgier this time, you know, like I'm gonna be more vocal about what I say. So yeah, he doesn't work for Collider anymore. He can do whatever he wants, right? He can say whatever he wants.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex?
Yeah, what do you think, Alex?
No comment. I don't have anything.
Okay. That's all right. I only mention this because it's become an ongoing inside joke on the pod that we just always bring up Chris Stuckman in one episode, and then one day we'll get Chris Stuckman on the pod. So we have to mention him. He's our quota.
We have to outro with "Get Stuckmanized." That's the tradition.
Oh, nice.
So
I
guess we'll go into that. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Gare. And everybody,
get Stuckmanized.
Get Stuckmanized.
Get Stuckmanized. Love it.
It's a good one.
Peace.